Lisa, you're so technical. It's so cool. Do I have the right thing open or am I?
Yes, that's perfect. Good job. You're doing so well with that today. It's awesome. Love it. All right. Well, welcome to my kitchen. I'm so happy you are here. I love having people in my kitchen. And we're going to cook up some yummy recipes. You probably hear something sizzling. Let me turn that down because we're going to get to that in just a minute. All right. So we're going to make some yummy things. We're going to talk about a few tips and strategies along the way that can help kind of make it easier in the kitchen. Things that can save you time and just make your work easier. So even if you're an experienced cook and you're comfortable in the kitchen, or if you're kind of a newbie or not really comfortable in the kitchen, sometimes you make a recipe and it turns out great. And other times you make a recipe and you're like, I don't think that's what that's supposed to taste like. So I'm going to give you some tips on why those things might be happening, along with making some fun stuff. All right. So we're going to get started. Now, some of the things that we do is we put things in a cold pan and then put them in the oven when they really need to go right into a hot pan and in the oven. So sometimes we need our pan hot before we even start. Sometimes we're in a hurry. We'll put the oil in there and then throw all the other stuff in there without waiting for the oil to get hot. And that can make a recipe turn out not quite the way it was supposed to. We're going to talk about maybe how to hold your knife and how to cut an onion. So just some little tips that kind of help you help your recipe come out right. Are you ever eating a soup and you hit a carrot and it's super crunchy? Well, that means we need to chop everything the same size. Things take longer to cook if they're bigger. So just simple things that seem pretty obvious, but we'll kind of talk about them as we go through. All right, so we're going to cover some of those things, but I also know that life is really stressful right now. It's busy and we don't always have time. When it's time for dinner, we think it's going to take a lot of time and we don't want to do it. So it's much easier to head through the drive-through or to get takeout, when really sometimes it isn't. I mean, you have to drive to get the food, so you're using up gas. That costs more. Eating out is more expensive these days, we know, even though groceries have gone up as well. So it's usually less expensive to eat at home, and it's easier and it's quicker, but we don't realize that. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to make is a homemade cracker. Have you ever thought about making homemade crackers? It sounds kind of extravagant, but really they're so much better than store-bought. And all the recipes I'm going to make today have 5 ingredients or less. I want to get you in and out and eating something healthy and delicious as fast as I can. That's distracting when my hands move over here. All right. So let's get going. Now, a lot of crackers, when I get a whole wheat cracker, they're crispy, but they're kind of too crispy. I feel like I'm eating twigs and rocks and all kinds of things. They're pretty hard. So these are they have a nice crispness, but they're a little bit tender too. So it's great. I love it. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to mix white flour and whole wheat. A lot of times when you go all whole wheat, your family rebels, or maybe you rebel because it has a different texture. It's kind of tough sometimes, different flavor. So it's okay to go halvesies. It's okay to go halvesies. And whenever you're baking, you see I'm spooning the flour in rather than just scooping it in. A lot of times when you scoop it in, you're packing that flour too tight. So you're getting more flour than the recipe has called for. Okay, I'm putting a cup and then a half a cup of white flour. And this recipe too, 5 ingredients or less. So I just mound it up, if you can see, put it here too. And then I just slide a knife across to scrape it flat. All right, 1.5 of white. And now I'm going to do 1.5 of whole wheat flour. All right, here we go. There's my half. Now I'm going to do my whole cup. And you can go halvesies on other stuff too, like rice or different grains. If you don't really like a brown rice, we'll cook half brown, half white. If you don't like a whole wheat pasta, do half whole wheat and half white. And then you get some of the tenderness of the white with the nutrition of the whole wheat. So don't be afraid to go halvesies. That is perfectly fine. We need to kind of do things at a slower rate. Sometimes we want to be fit all of a sudden. We want to lose weight all of a sudden. We want things quick. I do anyway. So it's okay to go slow and kind of make small little steps, small little adaptations before you get it just where you want it. All right, now we're going to add a teaspoon of salt, The funny thing about salt, if you're watching your salt, studies have shown that we get most of our salt from processed foods, not from the salt we put in the recipe or the salt on the table. It's from processed foods. So whenever we kind of need to pay attention to that, we need to read those labels. All right, we're just going to mix together our flour and our salt. You don't want a big bite of salt, so we're going to mix it really well. All right. Now we're going to add, and we're going to do this slowly with a fork. We're going to add 3/4 cup of water. Just put a little bit, start tossing it with a fork, a little bit more. And then I'm going to also add a little bit of oil. That keeps them tender and a little bit flaky, just about 4 tablespoons. And this recipe makes 7 dozen if you do the size cutter. And you can adjust your cutter. I'm using a little bit larger cutter today, but if you use a smaller one, you'll make even more crackers. And these are good, so you'll go through them. You could even double this recipe if you wanted to. It doubles really well. So we just add a little bit of our liquid at a time, toss it with the fork, a little bit more, 4 tablespoons all together. Each cracker is about 20 calories. So that'll tell you how many you have. And they go so well with all kinds of things. You can serve it with a dip as a dip. You can put it on a charcuterie tray. If you need some nice whole grain crackers on your tray. There you go. Move these things out of the way. All right, we're just talking, we're almost there. The flour will start to pull away. Put the rest of the oil. See how it's starting to pull together? Just turn the bowl and press my fork into it. All right, the last of our water. All right, here we go. Really starting to come together. Just sticking together. And it's not a super sticky dough. You need a little bit more water, you can. You don't need as much, but this works pretty well. This 3/4 cup. All right, it's really starting to pull together. See that? Now we're going to separate this into 3 different pieces. Let me pull this. Yeah. See how it's sticking together? That's what you want. See that? One. Put it together. More people coming. I love the little ding dong. All right, so I have my 3 pieces. Set this aside. Now I'm going to get some parchment paper because we're going to use this board again. But you can use whatever you use to roll it out because we're going to roll this out. Now here's a trick about parchment paper. Let me hold it right here so you can see it. A lot of times we pull out our parchment paper like this. See how the tab is there? And we pull it off and it goes real wonky. It's just, and sometimes this end part will just be, you know, twice as long. So what you need to do is slide, let me get how much I need. Slide this tab into the box. Just like that. And then it pairs off perfect, your perfect line. So slide it into the box, not on the outside of the box. Here. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to give just a little dusting of flour. You don't want too much flour. We've already got enough flour in this. So I'm just going to dust my board. I'm just using a strainer. You may have a sifter, whatever you use, but this works really well. Just a light dusting. See that? All right, go. Get one of my gloves here. Now we're going to roll this out to about 1/8 of an inch. And this is probably our longest time we're going to take on a recipe today. But even this is not too long. We just mixed 4 ingredients. 4, yes. Well, the 2 flours. You count those as 1 or 2? I think you count those as 2. All right, so 2 flours, water, oil, salt. I never count salt when I'm counting a recipe. So we're going to roll these out pretty thin. 1/8 of an inch, if you want to be exact. You want them thin enough so they're crispy, but not too thin that they fall apart in your hand. There we go. that rolled out. And I kind of do it by feel. I don't know if you can pop out your ruler if you need to. All right, there we go. Now I've got my cutter. My cutter is about 2 inches, but the recipe calls for 1.5 inches. So these are a little bit bigger than normal. And you can just cut these out. And get my pan over here. Put these on a sheet pan. Put that there. Now, when you're cutting biscuits, they always tell you, when you go down, don't turn. When you cut a biscuit, you just want to go straight down and straight back up, because you need those layers to kind of separate. And if you push down and twist, that can keep them from doing that. So if you're doing a biscuit, don't turn like I'm doing here. All right, let me just get a few of these so we can get these going. It's a good size cracker. 2, 3. I'm not going to make all of them today, but I just want to show you what it looks like. Don't you always want to see what it's supposed to look like when you're doing that? All right, we'll get this out of the way. Put this over here so I can put this right under the camera so y'all can see it. There we go. Here we go. So we're just going to lay these out about 1 inch apart. Got a little bit of water on my board. And you can just cover your board. All right. And then one more step before these are ready. We are going to brush them with just a little bit of oil, just very lightly. I won't even, this is a tablespoon, and I won't even use it for the whole thing. Just a light little brush of oil. And this is going to help our salt stick. And if you want to make these without salt, you certainly can do that. All right. Just a very light, see? Most of my oil is still in there. So use a brush or something that you can give a very light brush of oil. Now, one more thing for these. We're going to get some salt. I'm going to get about a teaspoon of salt. We're going to add to that some thyme. And I get this thyme out of my garden. Herbs are so easy to grow, some of them. Thyme, rosemary, oregano, they're super easy to grow. They like sun, they don't need a lot of water. So I just love it. My thyme and my rosemary are just big bushes. I love it. And my oregano is more like a ground cover. It just keeps spreading out. And I lost a lot after our big freeze in Texas. Y'all remember that a couple years ago? All of them looked like they were dead. I cut them down to the ground and they all came back. So they are very resilient. I thought about doing a video on how to grow herbs, how to use them, and how to store them. If you think you would like to see a video like that, comment on this video. Just go back into the course later and put your comments. Say, yes, Lisa, give us a video on how to use herbs and spices. Herbs especially. All right, when you're taking them off the stem, you want to pull down and they just come right off. If you try to pull up, they don't want to come off. All right, a little bit more. We're going to do about a tablespoon for the whole recipe. I'm going to pull down. One more. Pull down. The one herb that gives me trouble is basil. And this is my basil right here. Basil likes sun, but not too much sun. Likes water, but not too much water. So it's a little tricky with my basil. I think I finally found a good place for it in my garden where it gets some sun, but not too much. And the weather takes care of the water most of the time down here. All right, so I'm doing about a tablespoon. Where's my knife? Here it is. Now, when you're using a knife, you want to hold, your finger needs to be right there in front of your hilt, and then your thumb on the other side. And when you're cutting something small, when you're cutting something small, always keep the tip on the board. That keeps everything safe. This is our safe hand. This is our unsafe hand. So we're always watching out for this hand, because this hand is perfectly fine. You're never going to cut yourself with this hand, most likely. All right, so we keep it on the board. That gives us stability. And then you rock. And here's my other hand. I've got my fingers in. Don't hold it like this. You want to keep those fingers in, and that hits the knife so you don't get cut. And then you're going to cut it just like you're scooping water. Say you have a spoon and you're scooping up water out of a bucket. Just kind of a rocking with the tip down on the board. Not any of this, like doing a clapper, for a movie. Just keep it. I know you see that on the shows, the chef on, cutting everything. but we're just home cooks, right? So we need to be careful. All right. So I'm just cutting this. I'm just mincing it. So that is the smallest cut mince. You probably mince garlic all the time. Unless you use garlic. Anybody use garlic? All right. There we go. And now I'm going to mix this. Just give it a little mixer time. And this just gives it just kind of a light taste of thyme. It's not overwhelming. All right, watch my pan. And then we're just going to sprinkle the salt and the thyme over the crackers that you've dusted or lightly dusted with oil. All right. And now we're done. We put this in the oven at 375 for 9 to 11 minutes. You want these to be brown. You want them to get a brown on the bottom and brown on top, because if you don't get them brown on top, they're not going to be crispy. And here we have the finished product. You can see those. Now these have been sitting out while I've been running around doing these other videos. So we have a lot of humidity down here, and humidity is the arch enemy of crackers or chips or anything like that. So if you live in a humid area, as soon as they're cool, you want to get them in an airtight bag. And these will last about a week, or you can put them in the freezer and they will last about 3 months, and then just defrost those at room temperature. Just put them out on the counter and they will defrost. And after you defrost them or take them out of the fridge, if they're not crispy, put them back in the oven at 375 and just let them dry out again, and they'll be good to go, crispy again. You can re-crisp crackers. All right, that's our first one. Let me move some of this out of the way. All right, flour on the board, some time, get that off. Okay. All right, and this next recipe is super easy as well. This up. There we go. We are going to make a fruit salsa. Which would go great with those crackers. All right. So, and this is super easy. 4 ingredients. Our first ingredient is, let me get a bowl. Here we go. Get some water out of here from my cilantro. All right. So 1 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple. Just 1 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple. And I love buying canned fruits, canned vegetables, frozen fruit, frozen vegetables. Then I always have fruit, vegetable. I never have an excuse not to have those. And I know things like, a can of green beans, boring. Just steamed or frozen broccoli, boring. So what I do is try to pump it up. So if I have a can of green beans, I'll put it in a hot pan with hot oil, and pour the can, drain it, and then pour the green beans in, and then I'll throw maybe some cherry tomatoes in, and I'll just sear that in a hot pan with some salt and pepper really fast, and it makes it so much less boring. And it doesn't really seem like just a can of green beans. It's green beans with tomatoes, a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper. So we can kick those cans up a notch, and they're so shelf stable. You always have them. And for roasted broccoli, even if it's frozen broccoli, I'll put it straight in the oven, frozen, on a hot pan. Get your hot pan first, because that's the rule of caramelization. You need that really hot temperature, over 300-degree pan. You want that pan hot, because that's when caramelization starts. And if you do it lower than that, a lower temperature than that, it's where evaporation happens. So then you're losing all your moisture. So any of those things that you want caramelization, you want to start with a really hot pan, a really hot oven. So even things like a steak, you want to cook it on top of the oven, very hot pan, sear it on the outside. And if you have a cast iron or whatever kind of pan, just stick it right in the oven to finish it at a lower temperature. Then you don't lose your moisture.
I did it on purpose. It's okay.
Oh, okay. All right, next up, we're going to add some mandarin oranges. Now, these are segments, so I'm going to cut these a little. Is it because I stopped cooking? Oops.
Yeah, we just wanted to listen to you. You were giving us great stuff.
Yeah, I forgot where I was. Broccoli, roasted broccoli. You can put it frozen straight in a hot pan in the oven, or fresh broccoli straight in a hot pan in the oven. Cook it really hot and fast, caramelize it at 400 degrees. And then when I take it out, I'll try to add some kind of sauce. Like I'll do sriracha honey. So 1 tablespoon of honey and 3 tablespoons of sriracha. Depending upon how much you use is how much broccoli you have. But that's the ratio, 3 to 1, hot to sweet. And then I'll toss the broccoli in that. And it gives it a nice hot sweetness. So it's not just plain old steamed, plain old roasted. I mean, I love a good roasted with salt and pepper, but sometimes I need a little more flavor than that. So that's how I pump up these things like frozen vegetables, frozen fruits. We do something to them. All right, the next thing we have in this is some chopped red onion. Now, I don't know how you were taught to cut an onion. This is the way I was taught. You first slice with the lines like this. You just go down, slicing with the lines. And then second step, you go through and do some slices through this way, long way. And then you chop it down. But a lot of times doing that, they're uneven. They're not even. So I don't do it that way anymore. This is and this is 2 steps instead of the 4. That was 4 steps. So I love less steps. So we're just going to slice across the lines, slice down, across the lines. And this is a little bit bigger, so I'm not putting but I am using my safety fingers. I'm keeping my other hand safe. This is my safe hand. This is not. All right. So we're only putting a 1/4 cup. So that's all I'm going to slice there. And then you go through and slice this way. And this is a weird fruit salad, isn't it? Putting red onion in. You'd be surprised what goes together. Okay, that's about a 1/4 cup. So I'm going to get that in there. All right, 1/4 cup of onion. I'm going to break that up a little. All right. Next thing we're going to add is cilantro. I'm just surprising y'all all over the place, aren't I? You did not think I was going to use the cilantro in a fruit salad. That's why it's called a fruit salsa, not a fruit salad. All right, here we go. Just kind of grip as much of this as I can. And these are where you can also get in trouble because you're kind of holding this. You got to remember your safe fingers. All right. And then I'm doing the rocking because this is a lower, it's not as high as the onion. All right, just need about a tablespoon, so that's how we're going to do that. Put this over here, some other herbs, get the stems out. I do not like the stems in this particular thing. And then I'm going to do a little bit more because I don't want a big leaf in this. All right, this is about a tablespoon. Oh, my camera. There it is. They switched places on me, huh? All right, here we go. Do you ever wonder what the different onions are for? I mean, are some red, are some yellow, are some white? Well, they all have different uses. So the red onion that we're using today, you usually eat raw. Sandwiches, burgers, things like that. And then a sweet onion, onions that are, they say sweet, not yellow, but the sweet onion you use for things like onion rings, gratins, things like that. Roasted vegetables, they're good in roasted vegetables. And then a white onion is the crunchiest and it has the most zing. So you use that in like salsa, like a pico de gallo, things like that. That works best because you want that zing. Stir fries, you almost always use a white onion in a stir fry. And the yellow onion is really the best all around onion. It's really good for just about anything, but mostly sauces, soups, roast, you'll use a yellow onion. All right, so look at all that color. Great color. You got a little bit of red from the onion. You got the pineapple for a little zingy sweetness, and then the sweet mandarin. Now I've got I'm gonna put it in my dish over here. This is one of those dips, those dishes that have words on them. If you move my chips, you'll see it says take a dip. Do y'all love dishes with words on them? I love dishes with words on them. They're so cute. All right. And then you can just have this with chips. This is also really good on top of baked chicken. If you want to do baked chicken. There you go. What do you think? Looks pretty good. All right, nice little treat with some baked tortilla chips. Like I said, over chicken, you can over fish. It really adds a lot of flavor. The onion gives you a little zing, and the cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, because I know people love it or hate it, you can leave it out. You can definitely leave it out. All right. Oh, I didn't turn mine. All right. Now we started with starters because that is obvious. You start with starters. And now we are going to go to our entree. All right. Clean off my board a little bit. Yeah. All right. So next up is this is the dish. This also has just a few ingredients. It's a 3-ingredient goat. Oh wait, I'm gonna do this one first. The 3-ingredient goat cheese pasta. Super easy. All right. Let me get my bowl. So I have this pasta that I've already cooked. It's whole wheat. It's rotini. You can use whichever you want to use. We're putting 4 ounces. You could even use a chickpea pasta. Chickpea pasta is really good if you can find it in your store. So you can use a chickpea pasta. And the great thing about this recipe is it's for 2. I get asked all the time for recipes for 2 people. Because if you live alone or just with your husband, maybe your kids have moved out, you can eat something 2 times in a row. But 4 times in a row, you're getting pretty tired of it. So this is a recipe for 2. Now you want to do this right after you cook your pasta. I cooked this a little bit earlier just for the time saving of getting it all in this limited time we have. But so you want it to still be kind of warm. And then you're going to add 2 ounces of garlic and herb goat cheese. Just 2 ounces. About 2 ounces. Give this a stir. Now this is not hot. This would you want the goat cheese to start to melt. It starts to cover the rotini or whatever pasta you're using and mixes in really good. And then the next thing I add about a thick. Next thing I add is 2 cups of cooked broccoli. 2 cups, however it's cooked. It could be leftover broccoli that you had from the night before. You might think, oh, I'm going to have this tomorrow night, so I'm going to make extra broccoli. And you've already got it. So this is 3 ingredients, super easy. I don't count my salt and pepper, but I'm going to add that. A little bit of salt. Pepper here. Just to your own taste. And then you mix that. And you could throw in some rotisserie chicken in this, would be really good. Now it's not super melty right now, but if you do it right after you cook your pasta, it will be. It melts and covers all the stuff. Another thing that would go good in here, you could throw in some rotisserie chicken. If you just had some chicken left over, some cooked chicken, you could throw that in. Sorry, I don't want my tomatoes to burn. In the inner circle the other day, Vicki did a video on how to take the meat off of rotisserie chicken. She put the whole chicken in a storage bag, and then she just kind of like squeezed it and bunched it, and all the chicken just fell off, and then she just pulled out the bones. Super easy, super easy. Never done that before, but I'm going to. Except when she was doing it, she left a little corner of the bag open, and when she was squeezing, a piece of chicken tried to escape. So close your bag, people. You gotta close your bag. So cute. Really cute video. Of course, any video Vicki does is pretty cute. All right, 3 ingredients. 3 ingredients. Let me put it on a plate. Typically, a little in here. Excuse me for that. And you get a whole cup of vegetable per serving in this. Here we go. Isn't that pretty? If you had a little chicken, look great. Very pretty meal, very nutritious meal, very yummy meal. I love goat cheese. It has a lot of flavor. Goat cheese has a really strong flavor, so I love it. All right, on to the next. And there are a lot of meals that you can just kind of throw together like that with what you have. You could buy one of these bags. This is white and red quinoa, but you could buy. They have farro, they have brown rice, all kinds of these little microwavable bag. You could add this, buy one of those Mediterranean salad mixes, some rotisserie chicken, maybe a few cherry tomatoes, and you have a great bowl. You have a great quinoa bowl, farro bowl, whatever you want to call it, with stuff that you just have around. This is another one of those things you could have in your pantry all the time. And we talk about don't have heavily processed food, but if you look at the back of this bag, it says it has water, white quinoa, red quinoa, extra virgin olive oil, and sea salt. These are the same things I would use if I was making quinoa. So no extra preservatives in here. And if you don't like cooking in bags in the microwave, you can take this out and put it in a bowl and heat it up the same way. You don't have to leave it in the bag, although it's super easy to just carry it, you know, and cook it in the microwave. So whatever you're comfortable with. But you can throw meals together like that all the time. That's our next meal. I'm trying to get ahead of the game over there. That's, if you hear all that sizzling, we're doing that next. All right. So don't be afraid to use convenient foods. If it gets you in and out of the kitchen with a healthy, delicious meal, I say go for it. Pre-chopped vegetables, anything that makes things easier for you. I know groceries are expensive and you have to pay a little bit more, but like I said earlier, if you're driving to get takeout, driving through the drive-thru, you're paying for gas, which is expensive too. So don't be afraid to do that. All right. Where are we? Our next one is pesto ravioli with spinach and tomatoes. I love this one. Super easy. It's 5 ingredients or less, of course. So what I've done in the pan, I put just a tablespoon of olive oil and some cherry tomatoes. See how, let me show you here on the camera. See how they started to pop and they seared a little. So you cook them just a couple of minutes till they start to pop and split, and then they're ready. And now we're going to throw in some baby spinach. Just about 5 ounces. You know, you need a whole lot of spinach. And then we just cook that for another minute. Give that a stir. Super easy recipe. Okay, we'll let that cook down a little bit more. So we've used grape tomatoes, we've used a tablespoon of olive oil, and we've used a 5-ounce package of baby spinach. Now we're going to give you all these recipes, so don't worry. We'll have a link for you so you can download all of these. All right, and the next thing we're going to add to that, as soon as the spinach finishes, is some pesto. I have just a 1/3 cup of pesto. I love pesto. If you can make your own, but it takes a ton of basil. So I will usually buy it. The refrigerated kind is best, but if all you can find is a jar on the shelf, that's good too. But refrigerated is usually better, and for me, better tasting. All right, our spinach is starting to wilt. Just another 30 seconds, and we will throw this together. Super easy. All right. Another cooking tip, and this is my best tip, I think, get an instant read digital thermometer. So if you're going by a recipe and it says that chicken's supposed to cook for 40 minutes, well, maybe it's only supposed to cook for 35. You need to have that thermometer so you can stick in that chicken before it gets all dried out because you left it in too long. I'll show you the one on here. Super easy, quick read. You just open it up, it turns itself on. And a lot of them will have the things on the back, like you cook chicken and beef to 165 and you cook fish to 140. It'll tell you all of that. So that's really helpful if you're cooking fish so you don't dry it out, or chicken. Get an instant read thermometer. You don't want to cut into your meat or whatever it is because that lets the juices out. A lot of times that's what we do to try to see if it's done or not. Thermometer. Get you one. All right. Spinach is wilted. Can you see that? Looks great. Love it. Now I'm going to add my ravioli. I already cooked this a while ago, so it's probably gonna be a little sticky. You would probably do this right after. So typically what you do is cook the ravioli, takes 5 minutes, and then cook this stuff. So the tomato took about 2 or 3 minutes, the spinach another minute or 2. So we're 5 minutes in right now. We're 5 minutes in on this meal. And now you can get just whatever your favorite ravioli is. There's a low-fat Buitoni, fresh, or you can get frozen if you want to have frozen in your freezer. That would work too. Now we're going to add our 1/3 cup of pesto. Pesto has garlic, has basil, has salt, pepper. So just all kinds of good stuff. Let me get another feeling here. We're just gonna mix this all around. Sorry, mine are sticking just a little. Yours won't if you do this right after. Left them sitting while I was in the virtual shop. Sometimes that happens. You just gotta do some shopping. All right, here we go. Does that look good? Look at all the spices, the spinach, the tomatoes. You're just at this point just mixing all that pesto together. If your pesto was cold, you might put this on the oven while you're on the stovetop while you're mixing, just to keep it all warm. Is that beautiful? Look at that. All right, let's put it on a plate. You gotta put it on a plate. Here. I'll put this back under the camera in just a minute. All right. How's that look? What do you think? Is that pretty? Look at those pretty. You can use you could use all red cherry tomatoes. I've used the little heirlooms that have the yellow and the red, orange, different colors. So, and this is 360 calories. That's a good number of calories for a dinner or even a lunch. Perfect. Perfect. What do you think? Thumbs up?
I just want to say, if
Right.
I was in Galveston, I would be sitting at the table eating.
All right. How are we doing on time, Helen? I can't see the clock.
We're almost there. I mean,
Okay.
a minute. You got a
One
minute.
more thing. We can't skip dessert. We never want to skip dessert, so we're gonna do dessert. Let me put this up
Well, we
there.
can go over for dessert. I think we all agree on that.
Can always go over for dessert. All right, so I have my pan. I have parchment. I use parchment paper for just about everything. I love parchment paper. Easy cleanup, cooks well. So I've got these little phyllo cups. This is the phyllo dough. They're partially baked already when you buy them. So I've got, I'm just going to do about 4 right now. And the great thing about this recipe is you can do as many as you want. You could just do 2 if you wanted to. Oh, let me get my compote out. Left it in. All right, here's what we're going to do. I have some brie. I like brie. Love cheese. Any cheese is good cheese, right? All right, so we're going to put a teaspoon of brie. I need to wipe my hands. Just see how little these are? We're just putting a teaspoon in here. And it's okay if you can't get it perfectly in there because it's going to melt. Teaspoon of brie. So you could just make 2 of these. And brie, these last a long time. When I was looking at the date on these phyllo cups, they last a good long time. So this is another thing that you can have in your pantry for a quick dessert. You have people coming over, they're really pretty. So just a teaspoon of brie in each of your little cup, however many you're going to do. And then you're going to put these in the oven at 350 for about 10 minutes, just till the cheese is all melty. All right. And then you could put, after you bring it out, after it's all melty, you can put all kinds of things. You could put whole berry cranberry sauce. You could put, this is what I have, a fruit compote. I made this with strawberries, but you could do blueberries. You could do apples. If you use applesauce, that would work too as a compote. You could do really just any fruit you have. Peaches work really great. So this is strawberries. I put 2 cups of strawberries in a saucepan with a tablespoon of honey. And then I cooked that until it started boiling. And then I boiled it for 5 minutes. Now I use sliced strawberries. So at one point I took just a whisk and kind of mashed them up a little. Because I didn't want a whole strawberry. I wanted kind of mashed. And this fruit compote, it will stay in your fridge for 10 days. And you can use it on oatmeal, yogurt, toast with peanut butter. You can warm it up. This is still cold from the fridge, but you can warm it up in the microwave, pour it over ice cream. It is so good, and it's not super sweet. You're just using a little bit of honey, and you could even use less if you want. If all you have is sugar, you could use sugar. So once these come out, we just put a teaspoon of whatever your fruit is on top. Just like that. Is that cute? Is that the cutest thing? All right, we have to get a plate. And if you had like pistachios or something, you could sprinkle just a few. That little green nut on top would be adorable. Can y'all see those well? Woo. Very cute little dessert. And I love a mini dessert because I really don't need a whole big piece of cake or a whole big piece of pie. At some point, and studies have shown this, at some point when you're eating it, you're not really tasting it anymore. We don't realize that, but our brain is not really registering it anymore because we've gotten to that point. So, and they've done studies on people that eat desserts. They fed one group the whole piece and the other group just a smaller piece, and the other group registered just as much satisfaction as the group that ate the whole big chunk of cake. So I love little desserts because it's just enough. And these are 25 calories a piece. So why not? Perfect little dessert. All right. Went a little bit over. We had fun though, didn't we? Now, if you have any questions, just when you're in the course, go back to this page for the video and ask your question. I'll be looking for it or write to me directly. I'm happy to answer.
That is awesome. Lisa,
Yep.
listen, everybody, I just want to say I'm praising you for everybody because we're all just like, I love coming to the kitchen with Lisa Lewis. It's like my favorite place. You guys, I have to tell you just one quick funny story. One of the webinars we did way back in 2015, Lisa was one of them, and I forgot to record it by accident. And Lisa did the whole thing all over again for us so that you guys could see it on YouTube. So I just think she just loves cooking for us. So, and by the way, if you want to try any of Lisa's, like she's the cook, guys, at Wellness Week, in case we didn't mention that, she is our caterer cook and she feeds us, and we have dessert every single night. And we all kind of look forward to what's tonight's dessert. I think the chocolate, what is the chocolate?
It's called a chocolate melting cup. It is not a fancy name.
Well, it's very delicious.